Okay, so today we will continue the things on edit page. There is a lot of things to go through still, and then we will have, well, a bigger exercise on this. Last time there was so much things to say that we didn't have any time to exercise things. So this time I try to be more fast when showing things, and then I would like to let you to do an exercise at least for, let's say, 1 hour or so, or even more. But there's a lot of things on this page still coming, so maybe we start right away. So trying to remember where we left last time. I think that's the last thing we made this dissolve at the start, and that was maybe one of the last things over there. So we'll lower the audio a little bit. Yeah, so okay. The thing which was one of the last things, I think, was also the removing the clips on a timeline. So I think I talked about how the backspace and delete buttons differ. So if I'm selecting some clip here and using backspace, I will leave this kind of empty space in here. Well, sometimes this is kind of necessary, because if you need to keep the length of the whole timeline to be the same, then you can use this kind of method where you delete something in between and then add a new clip in here. And but if that wasn't exactly the thing you were doing, that you leave this kind of gap here, but you was about to remove the whole thing and move these clips in here, then you should use delete button. But in this case, you can also use the backspace to remove the empty space in here. But that means that you need to first remove the clip and then remove the empty space. The thing in here is that it works in the same way. Like I made this kind of modification in here. I dragged the clip up, and it created a new video track because of that. And the situation is exactly sorry. The situation is exactly the same in here. If I'm using delete, it still leaves this kind of gap, even though the track which was affected with the backspace was the video track number 2. So it works in a similar way, even though if there is a multiple tracks and you are picking some clips on those and then using backspace, the result is the same, that there will be a gap in here. So those are the kind of the options to remove things in here. There is also that kind of well, let's create a kind of deleting problem here. I will create this kind of situation that I have 2 tracks, and then I have this kind of empty space. And if I'm rolling or playing the timeline, it of course it shows like this, that there will be a black spot in my timeline, like here. And now if I remove that empty space, it makes the, well, it makes as it meant to be. So the problem in here is to remove this part, but there is nothing to select in this case. And let me think, the option was like this. I think we need to be on the timeline in here, and we need to create an inner point here, and then using the down arrow, I'm creating an out point in here. So now we have this kind of selection. Well, not the selection, but this kind of part here. Let's see if I can use, yes. So again, because I have created this kind of boundaries in here, in point and out point, then I have something to select, and I can use, well, in this case I used backspace. It doesn't work, but if I'm using delete in here, it makes it work like this. So sometimes, especially if you are using multiple video tracks, there might be that kind of gaps, and this is maybe the easiest way to remove empty spots on a timeline when using multiple tracks. Of course, it can be done also in this way, that you take this one and drag it over here. But if you have, for example, 3 video tracks and there is a lot of different clips on those, then to be sure that all these clips will move to the left when removing this one, needs to be done in this way. Okay, so that was about the removing things. Then another thing that I'm not quite sure if I also said last time, but maybe it's a good thing to repeat if I already said this one, that especially if you have a computer with low power, I mean the CPU power and so on, the render cache option in here, it's set, or I have put it on selection which is smart. So if I'm making some complicated editings in here, these parts on a timeline, they are pre-calculated, and it's easier to computer to use the, well, when you are playing the timeline, it's easier to show all those, for example, transitions and such thing in a preview window. Without this option, it might be kind of jerky or twitchy result in here. Then about let's see, was it something else I needed to say about? Well, actually, one small detail in here. It's not about the smart rendering, but overall playing this on a preview window. So if I'm playing the timeline in here, you can see the frame rate up here. So in this case, it should be 30. So the content or the options for this timeline, it's the same as the clips has the 30 frames per second, and if the timeline plays correctly, it shows this small green dot here and the value of FPS. But if you have a problem with the playback, it will show some number in here, and then the red dot shows that your computer doesn't run the timeline at the correct frame rate. So in here, when I'm starting the playback by pressing the space bar, you can see shortly how it shows the red dot over there before it gets up to 30 FPS. But if you are seeing that all the time, then you may try to correct that by using that playback render cache and smart. So that was the thing I was about to say. Then about the some other smart things. You can see here this kind of title, which is smart bins, and this one I'm not quite sure if you have such thing, which is which has a name called timelines. I think it's coming somewhere from the preferences or options of the let me see. It was somewhere in here, at least in the previous versions, that you needed to click on this kind of option that show timelines in a smart bins or something like that. But the normal way to create or use smart bins is like this. So you can add a new smart bin in here, and it shows all the clips in this project. So it shows from all those folders. There is those two subfolders, which are club and rock, and under them there is similar kind of structure where there is an audio and video folders. And with the smart bin, you can filter content in a certain way. There's a lot of different kind of options you can choose from this list. There is something about the properties which can be seen also in a media pool. So the frame rate and resolution and such thing about these video clips, for example, or some other technical details on metadata section or something like that. But I will show some simple option here. For example, let's try to, if there is some low quality resolution clips in in here. I think they should be in HD resolution, but if I'm trying this kind of thing, that if there is 1:80 720 resolution, then I should call this smart bin, for example, low res. Let's see. You can see how it's already picked some of these clips in here. So these clips are using this kind of resolution. And if I'm selecting is not, this of course selects even those which are lower resolution, but I think the rest of the content is in HD. So now it shows the HD resolution clips in here, but let's use this one with the is resolution is like this, then create. And if I need some low resolution clips in here, I can select them from smart bin called low res. So that's the idea of smart bins. Sometimes these are quite handy if you have a lot of different kind of clips and you need to choose exactly with a certain property your clips, and then you can filter them with the smart bin, and you can create a lot of different kind of filters or smart bins in here to use for your own use and own preferences. Okay. Still wondering the timelines options should be in here. So yeah, there's also this kind of a user tab or option in here. Let's see. Yeah, it's in here. So if you're a PC user, so I'm not quite sure where you find the preferences, but in Mac, it's always under the name of the software. But if you got this kind of a panel open, then click the user editing, and then there is a smart bin for timelines. So that's kind of handy thing in that kind of projects where you have in the same project you have multiple timelines. Then it's easy to check out those in here. Okay, so I have two different timelines in here, and you can see that active timeline is timeline 2, which is also shown in here. Of course, you can find the timelines also in here, but in many cases it's easier to check out the timelines in here. You can scrub your cursor over this thumbnail and see the content in here and so on. Okay, so that was about the smart bins. Then I will get back in here and continue with the editing stuff. This was kind of the setting up some options in the software itself. The thing I'm trying in here is, let's see, take some clips in here. For example, this kind of clip where I have already done the in and out points. I have been playing this with these clips yesterday, so there is a lot of clips, or almost all of these clips, they have some kind of in and out points. And the thing I'm going to do with this one is to do some other stuff than append at end. We tried that last time by dragging and dropping all the time the append at end. But now the thing in here was to use ripple override, and I used it on purpose in this part here. So doing undo in here, the way how the ripple override works is like this. I'm going over this shorter clip in here and dragging this one, ripple override, and as you can see, the length of the clip dropped in here. It's the same as the in and out points in here, and it makes the override in that way that if this is longer than the place which it will be dropped on a timeline, it will push all the rest of these clips to the right. So it doesn't override anything, even though the name is override. So it's ripple override, and it works kind of two-directionally. So in this case, there was a short clip and longer clip was replacing that one. So it pushed all the stuff to the right. But then if I'm making it this way that there is kind of short clip, I will remove this one with backspace to have this kind of empty space in here. And now if I'm ripple overriding, the this clip will replace, or it was dropped in here, and it removes all the empty space at the same time. So ripple override, it removes the empty space if needed. It adds more space for the clip if it's too long to fit in that space that there is left. So it happened with this clip in here. You saw how it pushed it replaced this one, and at the same time it pushed all these clips to the right. And with the empty space, which was longer than the clip which was dropped here, it took off all those empty frames and made the timeline constant like this. And the same thing if I have a longer clip coming into this part in here. Let's make this shorter like this. Same thing. The ripple override pushes this clip to the right. So it's kind of a safe option to drop things into timeline without any problems with the clips which are already over there. And the I was about to. I need to test this one again. A thing that comes back to my mind when only by testing the thing I haven't. There is a lot of small details in the timeline. For example, the active timeline in here now, because I have played with the clips here I have multiple video tracks, and the active track is shown always like this. So if you click this one, it activates the video track. I just was wondering that what happens if I activate that track on the top. So what it does now. Okay, did I made it wrong, or does it really act like that? Yeah. Okay, so now when I activated the upper video track, the video 2 in here, by clicking that small V1, or actually it's V2 in this case, but now it's V1, the ripple override, it acts like the append at end in this case. So there's a huge difference between these options. So there is a multiple situation where you need to play this kind of with this kind of options in here. There is also this small button in here, auto track selector, and it also affects how things are happening. So for example, if I'm selecting this clip in here, and if I'm saying Control C, so I'm copying this clip, and if I'm activating this one, the video 2 track, and saying paste, it still makes the paste on this track here. And that's because I'm using the auto track selector in here. So I'm selecting the video 2, taking off the auto track selector. Oops, I think I need to take it off from here. Come on. So like so. So taking off the auto track selector from here, keeping it on in here, and selecting the video 2 track, then it places the, when I'm using Control V as paste here, then it pastes that one on the correct track. So there is these small buttons all around. So there is a huge difference if you are keeping them, especially in those cases where you have 3 or 4 tracks, 4 videos, and then you may have different kind of a set of selection for example, auto track, and which one is currently active track, and so on. And then it may surprise sometimes if you have selected in a wrong order or something like that. You place the copied clip in a wrong place totally. Okay, but I will place those or put those on and click also the video track number 1 active in this case. I also used here another possible option for insert. The normal copy paste, it's well, I copied, I pasted, but then there is also something called paste insert, which can be found also in here. You can see it's a shift in a PC, shift Control V instead of normal Control V. In here, shift Command V in my Mac, and it's a little bit different than normal paste, so it pushes the content in here further. So if I have copied this one and then shift Command V, it pastes this kind of with the insert option, so it pushes all the content to the right in here. So that's the small difference between paste and paste insert. And it also makes it in this way because it really is insert. What I did was that I moved the playhead here in the middle of the previous clip, and then if I'm saying Shift Command or Shift Control V, it pastes with the insert option in here, so it cuts this one half and puts the inserted clip here or pasted clip in here between those parts which were cut in the two halves from the point of the playhead. So as you can see, there's a huge amount of different kind of options to play with, how to drop the things on a timeline or how to arrange them. And there will be also a lot of different kind of shortcut keys as well. I'm not quite sure again if I showed the reference manual, which is also installed with the software, all these shortcut keys and how to work with them, and all those different kind of commands can be found in here. So from the page 541 starts the section for edit page, and as you can see, this is a huge collection of information. So there is more than, well, there is 3,588 pages in this manual. So from that you can see how huge software we have here. And of course, this is for the professional or the full version. This one, it covers all the things in the software. But if you are using the free version, it's kind of limited. All those things can be found from the menus and from the UI. But when you try to use some feature, it may say that this is only in full version or the studio version of the software. But if you need to recall something, then use this PDF as a guideline or manual for different kind of things. Okay, so that was about the copy paste thing. Then what else? Well, I think this is the good place to show the next thing, that it's swap clips. So now if I'm playing this one, it kind of makes a small jump here in that border. So it starts same clip again. And well, that's not a nice looking part in here, that kind of jumps. So it might be okay if I'm showing this one and then this clip in here and then again this one. And the one option is to drag this up, then move this one in here and then drop this one here in back. But the easier option is to select a clip here and then using the shift control and comma, not comma, but actually the period and comma works in here. So with the shift control and period, you will move the selected clip to the right, and with the comma, you will move it to the left. So you can swap the places of two clips like this. And then there is this empty space. I'm doing this with the same buttons, comma and period, like this. And if I'm pressing shift control period again, then it swaps like this. So this is maybe the most convenient way to move clip on a timeline. So you can jump to the right or jump to the left with this. And that's the command called swap clips. All these kind of tricks or commands can be found from here also. If you are playing with the clips on the timeline, you can find the command also in here, but it's so much faster to use these shortcut keys. And well, there is a few of those shortcuts I'm using all the time. Most of the shortcuts I forgot if I'm not doing the editing work. Let's say for example 1 month or so, then I need to recall again some of these important or handy shortcuts, but the basic ones, they are always on my fingertips, but then there is a few this kind of handy things that I need to recall as well after a longer break in editing. So, but there is a lot of those. There is also an option to make your own shortcut map, so-called shortcut map. There is an option to change all these shortcuts, but that might be that kind of thing that you shouldn't do, because if you are making your own shortcuts, then of course, if you don't remember those, there is no help from, for example, from that PDF or some other source. Okay, so it starts to be 9 o'clock, so I think we should have a break here, and I'll stop the recording first. Okay, so now I'm back, and then again some tools to make a selections on a timeline. So actually in here the options in here. So there is a situation where you need to select all the clips on a track at a certain point. If, for example, if you like to make some kind of space or room for clip to be inserted. Of course, it as you have already seen, you don't need to make a space in there, but sometimes it feels kind of more natural to have that kind of a empty space and then fit something in there. And for that, you should select the clips, all the clips in here. And of course, if you have a really long timeline, you have, for example, 15 minutes or 1 hour or so, and there is a tons of clips on your timeline, and you need to move all of them, then you can select all from the playhead. So I have my playhead in here, and I'm pressing letter Y from the keyboard. So of course you can do the same thing here. Select clips forward on this track using the Y key, and that's for the one single track. But usually, if you don't see the whole timeline, there might be a situation like this. And if you are using the Y, you are making this kind of selection, and then if you are pushing this to the right, this kind of error may occur. So it always more secure or sure to use the Alt Y for selection if you don't see the whole timeline. So taking this back, and now because I have this kind of structure, of course I need to select this one. So pressing the Alt key or Option in Mac and the Y key, I will select all the tracks, all the clips, starting from position of the playhead in here. So it takes that clip as a starting point, which is under the playhead, and from that point to the end. And now if I tracking these, I will have this kind of empty space. Then so it was Y to select forward for one track, and that's the active track actually. So if I'm clicking here, I'm activating this video 2 track, and then I'm pressing Y, it selects this one. If I'm clicking here, pressing Y, the selection is for this track. And the Alt Y for forward for all tracks. But then if I need to make a selection starting from this clip, but to the opposite way, from this point to the start, then it's Control Y for active track. So now it selects starting from this clip to the start. And to make this visible, I'm using this zoom here. So as you can see, it starts in here and make a selection from here to start. And then, oops, if I have multiple tracks, so in this case, I have these 2 tracks containing the clips from here to start, then the combination is Control Alt and Y. So it's all about using the key Y with the different kind of combination of these extra buttons, Alt and Control, or Option and Command in Mac. So Control Alt Y, it selects all these on both tracks, or even if I have more tracks in here, it selects all tracks starting from there. Right, so that's about the selecting multiple clips. Then the editing about with the frame by frame. So there is also a kind of a shortcut keys for that. And I'm zooming a little bit closer in here. Okay, so now all these clips on a timeline, they have been already adjusted with the in and out points here in this source monitor, and then they could be tracked to the timeline directly from the source monitor to the timeline, or you can use those buttons here on the right side of the preview monitor. But it's kind of a rough cut that you are doing here in a source monitor, and it might be so that sometimes there is a really small difference between those 2 clips, and especially if you are thinking the continuity of the clips. So there is a clip number 1, and then you are cutting that in a source monitor and putting the clip number 2 on a timeline, and then you would like to adjust precisely to this certain frame your kind of this border between those 2 clips to make for example, the movement from clip number 1 to clip number 2 to be kind of a constant, or the continuity between those clips stays. And for that, there is of course this kind of option where you can track the handles, the same thing as we had in the cut page as well, and same thing in here. You can track this like so, or you can go over the border of these 2 and then change the position of these 2. That is the options in here. But then if you need to adjust the hold on, like here. Well, I'm taking this one as a start. So the keys I was using in here, they were again a comma and the period. So if I need to move and cut at the same time, this one, I can do it like here, or need a couple of these Control Z's undos in here. So there is a different kind of modes in here. So the first one was selecting the whole clip, and then by using the comma in here, I'm pushing that one to the left, and it cuts the frames. The length of this clip stays, but it cuts frames from the previous one. But at the same time, it creates this kind of hole in here. So that's the one thing. This is for that kind of situation where you have the precise length for certain clip and you want to keep it that way, then this might be an option. But well, I'm using this one quite rarely. But then this kind of selection where you select the start or the end of the clip, and well, in this case, I'm selecting the start of the clip, and then by using the comma in here, I'm making this clip longer, and it's at the same time it cuts off the frames from the previous clip. So, and the same thing if I'm using a period in here, it cuts off the frames from the start. But in this case, because I already cut this, like you already saw, it leaves this kind of gap in here. But then if I'm using selection which selects both of these kind of edges of this line here, so it selects the in point of this clip and out point of this clip, then the situation is like this. It moves that one left and right. It's exactly the same that you can do with your mouse, but it's more precise in this case, that you can do it frame by frame. And in this case, on the left side, you can see the last frame of this clip, and on the right side, you see the first frame of this clip number 2. And the same thing in here with the comma, you move this border here or these edges to the left and here to the right with the period. So this is quite handy thing, especially if you are looking for exact place or kind of a border for or the timing for the 2 clips to be in synchronized in certain way. Let's see if there is something else. I need to check out this menu in here. Yeah, maybe this tool, the razor tool, that's kind of the old-fashioned tool, but I have used the razor tool quite a lot in Premiere years ago, so for that reason I'm still using that one, even though there is those kind of more handy tools to use, because the razor tool it's in most cases it's for the situation where you need to cut, for example, this clip in 2 halves. But we already saw with that paste insert, for example, how it cut it with the same command. It cut this clip to the 2 parts, moves rest of this to the right, and then inserts the content in here. But well, it may feel sometimes easier to make the whole thing kind of the old-fashioned way, where you need to use the razor tool. So it's a Control B, and it cuts your clip from here. So now I have 2 parts of these clips in here, and if I'm pressing Y, I select all these, and then again inserting or whatever I would like to do here. For example, here when I inserted that one, it plays this whole part in here. But as you can see, it also have this gap in here. So I would easily could use the insert directly to the cut without moving this rest of these clips to the right. So insert pushes the space for itself without removing any frames from the clips on the timeline. So, but in some places you still need to have this kind of option. So Control B cuts that one, but also if you're using B from your keyboard without Control, it changes your cursor to this kind of razor blade. So with this you can select from where to cut your clip, and if I'm clicking over there over the playhead, it cuts exactly from the same place as with the command B. But if there is a need for cut to this certain place, you can move your razor blade over the clip, and you can see it from the preview window. And okay, now I would like to cut this one from here. Now you have two different clips in here. There is also that kind of situation where you need to cut the clip but nothing else. So there is no, for example, if you like to give a certain kind of mood for a clip, you have, for example, a little bit longer clip on your timeline, and you like to cut it half, and then the rest of the clip you add some kind of, for example, color grading trick on that. You change the rest of the clip, for example, black and white or whatever. That's the kind of the better example about why would you need to cut a clip, because all these tricks which can be used with the menu on here on the right side of the preview window, they can kind of make the workflow faster, because you don't need to cut things first and then move and then insert something. You can directly insert and it cuts and do all the stuff you need with this one single drag and drop command. But in that kind of situation I described, for example, that you have this one and then you would like to change this clip to black and white, and it makes it so that there is no difference or no kind of any jump cuts in this clip. It's all the same clip. The fingers are approaching the knob and turning the knob, and at a certain point in here from this frame forward, it's kind of another clip, but it's just all about the same movement and turning the knob in here. But now I can adjust this one and make modifications for this part of these clips because they are too separate. Okay, long explanation about one simple tool in here. Okay, and then as you can see, it's also on in here, so it's blade edit mode it's called blade edit mode in Resolve, and I think the name of the tool is Razor in Premiere. The shortcut key, as you can see in here, it's B, as I already said. And to get back to the normal selection tool, it's A. So this is selection mode tool, and its shortcut is for that, it's A, and this is B. Easy to remember those two. Well, these buttons in here, we have been using all the time, the selection mode, and I am kind of used to use that one. But in many cases, the trim edit mode would be more convenient and kind of easier to use, because you have already saw how things happen in that way, that you remove something and then you need to, there will be kind of an empty slot for that part where we had a clip and it was removed. And if you are, for example, not using delete, then you need to make not another deletion for the empty space, and that's because of the selection mode is used. The trim edit mode is in that way it's more convenient, that if you are creating an empty space for some reason, by using some tool which is normally leaving an empty space, the trim edit mode removes all the empty spaces at the same time automatically. There is also another mode in here, but we will concentrate to that a little bit later. So it adds kind of a couple of quite nice functionality to the editing as well, but let's check that one a little bit later. But trying to explain the difference in here. For example, if I'm making this kind of edit for this clip with normal way with the selection mode on, I will get this kind of empty space here, and then I would need to remove that one. But if the situation is like this, that I have the trim edit mode on, nothing else but changing the mode in here, these three fellows are modes. And now if I'm using the same kind of selection, you can see how the rest of the timeline follows this movement. So it's small detail or small difference in here, but sometimes it's making your life much more easier, because you don't need to remove those empty spaces by dragging first and then clicking and then pressing some key from keyboard. So with this tool, everything happens at the same time. So it saves in this kind of editing, it saves a few extra clicks from your side. The I'm trying to figure out what else to show about the trim mode. Well, the workflow we have been using here is that kind of order where we have dragged the clip from here, then we have made the in and out points in here, and then dragging that clip with in and out points over here, over these tools in this side, or directly to here. And well, that's the one way to work with the clips. And well, now I added this one at the end directly from here to here. You can also work with the clips in opposite way, that you can start to play with the clip by double clicking it in here. And now this clip, which is double clicked on a timeline, it's open in here. So there is a small difference that in this case, that normal ways work from here down to the timeline, but in this case you can select the one single clip, and by double clicking it, you will open it up here, and you can adjust the in and out points in here, and you can see what happens in a timeline. So normally we are doing like this and checking that one, or that difference in this preview window, but if you have double clicked this one, it can be done also in opposite way. Sometimes it feels more easier to do this way. Then the same thing with this clip, for example. Okay, now it shows somehow weird in here. my mouse is all all the time zooming in and out these clips in a weird way. So, but yeah, the same thing with this clip in here. You can see the in and out points, and especially in this case, if you are editing in this order, the thing, it's quite handy to have this trim edit mode on, because now if I'm moving the out points in here, it pushes or tracks the rest of the clips on a timeline depending on the position of the out point over there. If I make the same thing in a normal selection mode, again, there will be this kind of gap. And in opposite way, it will shorten, it cuts off the start of this clip. It expands this clip and cuts off the frames in here. Again, it depends on the wanted situation. Sometimes this might be the correct solution, because if you have, well, let's say, for example, exactly 30-second commercial clip to be made, and you have already ended up to that 30-second, the last frame is exactly at that point, then it might be so that you may want to adjust this border a few frames, and in that kind of cases, it's not a problem to push this a little bit further, so on. But there is also better tools in this case. If I'm adjusting the border of these two, I may want to see both of them at the same time, but still. Then about the, I'm trying to make this a little bit longer, or giving more space for this. Sometimes there is a kind of situation where you find that, okay, there is nothing that interesting or at the start of the clip, but for example in here, when the light color changes to the red, you decide that this would be the nice start for this clip, and I put the trim edit mode on because I'm going to remove the start of this clip, and I want it to be done that way that I don't need to select the empty space again, and so on. So there is a menu up here. This selection I'm looking for is trim start in here, or it should be that one. Was it so? The problem with this function is that it has kind of complicated shortcut key, because in Finnish keyboard you should have a multiple option buttons pressed at the same time. But let's see. Okay, so should be working in that way as well. Well, now I have some mysterious problem, or should I? Yeah, okay, so the clip needed to be selected first. In some commands, it's kind of differs. So in some cases, you don't need to select the clip first. Just take the command or use the shortcut keys, but it seems that in this case, the clip need to be selected usually, or well, not maybe usually, but in many cases, it's enough that you have the selected clip underneath of your playhead. And because this command is using the playhead as a cutter here, I was assuming that you don't need to select the clip first, but it seems that I need to do that. And then I also put the trim edit mode on and then trim start. It cuts the start of the clip, and because I had this option on, it take off all the frames from the start of the clip up to the playhead. So now it starts exactly from this frame where the lights have turned to the red. So that's the thing how this works. And then let's see, we have this green. It's green in the middle, but then it turns back to the red, and I would like to cut off the last frames where the green light is on. So in here, that's the last frame to have red lights over there. And now this one is selected. Playhead is in correct place, and then from the trim menu, trim end, like that. So that's also one of those quite handy tools, but I have been struggling with the Finnish keyboard because I think in PC you need to use the Alt-GR button at the same time. So I think it's a Shift Alt-GR and then the button from the topmost row of those keys on your keyboard. So usually if I'm using that command, I'm taking it from the trim menu, one of those rare commands which need to be taken over there. The kind of the similar thing is a thing called extend edit. So it makes the same thing. It cuts the start or the end of the clip up to the playhead, and using undo a couple of times. And in this case, the shortcut key is simply E, but you need to select the which part of the clip you would like to cut off. So if I'm selecting the start of this clip, you can see this green edge over here, and if I press E from my keyboard, I will cut off the start. I use the selection mode in here because it's easier to show that it really cuts off like that. But again, this is much more convenient to do with the trim mode on. So the same thing, the selection is still on there. And now if I'm pressing E, it cuts off the start and moves the rest of the clip over there. And the same thing in here, I select the end of this clip and move the playhead to the correct frame, and pressing E cuts off the rest of the clip in here. You can also use the same tool in this way, that you select the start of this clip and end of the previous clip. So now we are selecting this border in here, and I have my playhead over there. And if I'm pressing the E in this case, it cuts off the frames from this clip, but then it extends the previous clip. So it kind of, well, not kind of, but it actually moves again this border between two consequent clips in here. So that's also one option to use. So there's a lot of these kind of small details where you need to select something, need to do some with these shortcut keys. And I have a kind of a cheat sheet for these options somewhere. I try to find it, because you don't remember a thing in here without having that kind of sheet where is these most common shortcuts shown to you, and by using them heavily. So therefore I have these couple of exercises in here. Okay, but it's again time to have a break here. So there is only a few things left, and then we can start that exercise I have promised for today. So I'm saying pause in here first. Okay, so we have a few things left, and then we will start practicing the things with some content. So one of the last things about the timeline and editing is this button in here. And we have this kind of a yellow playhead now here, and the idea of this is it's quite simple, or well, the yellow color likes to show that there is some special tool on right now, and the tool is called slip and slide. So, or actually those are two different tools. And if I'm going over this clip and press the mouse button, you can see how it shows these kind of boxes on the left and on the right. It shows the amount of the frames I have in here in this clip. So if I double click this one in here, you can see how again need to fit here. We have two frames which are exactly the same. So I double click this one, and the playhead it's over here. But actually, when using the slip or slide, the result or the how it affects it's shown in here in preview monitor on the right. So now when I go over the clip here and upper part of the clip especially, and if I press the mouse button down and start to drag my clip in here, you can see how the right side frames, or that white rectangle which is over the next clip, moves to the left and to the right. So it shows how I'm dragging the frames inside. I have this much space for my clip, and there is some frames in it right now. And if I'm using this slip in here, I'm dragging the frames in this window. I'm calling this usually kind of a window. I'm looking through this window a certain amount of frames, and I can slide the whole clip inside this window to have a certain clips in it. So the length of the clip, it doesn't change, and I'm only moving the in point and out point. So there is always the same amount of frames, but the in point and out point are changing. And on the preview window up there on the right top corner, I can see 4 smaller images. The first one is the inner point of the tracked clip, and the next on the top row, the right one, is the end point of this clip. So if I'm moving this, you can see how both of those are changing. So the length of the clip doesn't change, but the in point and out point, they are changing. Let's say I like to keep it so that the fingers are off from the view at the last frame. And then at the bottom, you can see how the previous clip, the last frame from the previous clip is shown, and the first frame from the next clip is shown. So you can compare your clip in the middle, how it fits into the next one. So the previous one and the next one. So that's the idea here. Okay, so I released the mouse button right now. Then the lower part of the clip, where I have this name of the file for the clip, you can see how the cursor is changing. So the lower part is reserved for the slide option. And the slide, I can't slide to the right because you can see how there is only one frame left, but I can slide the clip like this. So this is totally opposite idea in here. So now I'm not moving the frames or in an out point of this clip itself, but I'm changing the out point of the previous clip and in point of the next clip. So now I can adjust this clip in that kind of position where it would be good to have according to the previous clip endpoint and the next clip endpoint. So the total idea in here is that nothing changes in a length or the total length. The clip which is tracked in some way, the length of that doesn't change, and the same thing with the total length of the timeline. It's always, the last frame is always at the same place, but you are changing the position inside the length of this clip or position in a timeline. So that's the idea of slip and slide. Sometimes it's really handy option, especially if you are looking for how some parts of the timeline are fitting together. And that's actually the idea of today's exercise, or exercise number 2. Then about titles. Usually the videos have some kind of titles at the start of the timeline, or at the end, or at both sides of the usually there is a name of this whole video at the start, and then there might be some kind of credits or something at the end of the video. So let's shortly check out the titles, how they are done. Well, the titles, they are coming from effects library here. So I'm clicking that on. We tried last time these dissolve things. We had this cross dissolve here at the start, and there is, well, in my case there is more of these than you have, but let's not concentrate on these, but check out the titles. And in here we have a set of pre-made titles, and there is this kind of things called lower thirds. So these are quite often used, for example, if there is a person in interview and you would like to show his or her name, it's usually given by this kind of lower third, and the name comes from the position of the title. So it's, if you divide the screen with the horizontal lines, it's kind of 1/3 of the bottom of the screen. So well, I'm using the first one, left lower third, and I'm tracking that one over the timeline in here. And well, it's like this. So zooming out like this, and the length of the title, it's 5 seconds by default. So if I'm get back to the start, okay, come on, now it wants to do something by its own. did some funny things because I had this slip and slide on. So the title can be of course it need to be modified, because we cannot have this kind of title and sample over here. And the modification happens this way, that you select the title from the timeline. Let's use this option in here. So I selected the title, and then from upper right corner, I'm opening the inspector, and you can see how we have a text title in here, and then we have another text in here, so sampled. So there is a tool for both of these lines, which are separate, so you can type something in here. Example title, and then by me. So quite easy to change, and then there is a lot of options. Usually you keep these quite clean and tidy, not to try to, well, usually the font is clear without any special font family or such things, and well, again, it depends of the content below it. So now it's quite easy to read because it has this kind of black background and so on. But if I'm, well, even though the clip changes, it's quite easily to be, you can easily read it in here as well. So I was worried a little bit about that white background, that what happens with it. Now, because we have, well, I'm dragging this cross dissolve to the start, so the whole thing should start from, well, actually, the thing I was looking for was to make the dissolve from black to this image, but I'm using that one, or doing that one a little bit differently. So here you can see that small handle here in upper left corner, and if I'm dragging that one to the left, it creates a kind of dissolve in here as well. So the same thing with the title. If you like to dissolve title from total transparency, so it starts like this, there is nothing to see, and because both of these have this kind of a handle over here, so it's kind of starting from the total transparency, and then there is a black background, or no background at all. So it starts over there, and then it starts to show more opaque in here. So that's quite easy way to do this kind of transition from black to total opaqueness. Or you can do it in this way as well, that there is no video underneath the title starts from the, well, it starts right away, but the title has this kind of ramp, and it starts to show it this kind of change. So it's quite easy to do. And the same thing at the other end. I'm making this a little bit longer, so the 5 seconds is kind of default value. Then if you like to, you can also make the title disappear with the ramp as well. So this kind of clean and simple titles are quite easy to do. But again, because I don't remember which one were the ones which are working only in this in my version and which one is working in the free version, I'm not playing that deeply with this. You can try it by yourself, but I will replace this one with the, for example, this one. Let's see if there's some. As you can see, there is pre-made animation, for example, in this one. So there is a lot of different kind of options for the text, and there might be some colored shapes underneath the text and so on to make it more clear to read and so on. So there is quite a lot of different kind of pre-made options in here, and you can also modify them. Tracking that one also in, and here we have this kind of animated text over the rectangular shape. So, but you can test those by yourself. Okay. So there has been a lot of things, and as I said, you should have that kind of a cheat sheet for different kind of editing commands on here. But let's do so that for 15 minutes you should create your own kind of a music video by using the material from the folder called club. So there is a clips for this kind of audio which can be found from here. There is a few options in here which are kind of suitable for this kind of video content, and simply try to play with that kind of modification tools you can remember, or by simply dragging the handles in here and using slip and slide and such thing to create some kind of musical video out of this content. And then after 15 minutes we will get, or I will reveal the actual exercise for this part of the course about the edit page in here. So it's about, well, I have been talking many times before about the continuity of the video, and it's kind of the exercise which is all about the continuity, and we will talk about a few words and check out a couple of YouTube videos about the continuity before we start that exercise. So let's use I said 15 minutes, but that's maybe too much. Let's use 10 minutes for exercising the edit page with this content in here, the audio and video, and try to do something again which is kind of fixing into the beat. So let's try to make it so that all the cuts are in a correct place according to the beat. So I will stop the recording now, because that is something that's not necessary to have in the video.